Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this Proptech webinar, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which most of us are based. Most of us are in Sydney, except Kylie, who's in WA, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. So this is a hello from me from Sydney. I've got the Sydney Opera House as inspiration because that is definitely not what it's looking like today. It's rainy and trainless in Sydney, but we're here and we're going to have an awesome session. So my name is Marianne Lampertang. I'm the General Manager for Stone & Chalk in Sydney, currently at the Sydney Startup Hub and soon to be at Tech Central from the 1st of July. I'm also the Treasurer of the Proptech Association, and I'm really excited to have an all-women panel today. Looking forward to International Women's Day on the 8th of March. So the topic webinar is about de-stressing, buying, moving, etc. And many people don't know that moving is actually one of the big stresses in life, together with getting married, having a death in the family and having a child, etc. So the last time I bought a property and moved in, I wish I had all these services available to me, and I didn't at the time. So everyone who's doing it out there, they're very lucky to have awesome access to all these services now. So on that note, I'll hand over to Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Hello and welcome to February's the Proptech panel. I'm Jennifer Harrison and I'm the Vice President of the Proptech Association Australia. We'd love you, if you don't already, to follow us on LinkedIn. And if you are a Proptech and you're not a member, please consider joining us as a member and also enter for our Proptech Awards, which are currently open and entries close on March the 18th. Now, moving home is typically driven by some kind of life stage event. Growing families need to upsize. Empty nesters don't need the space. They're motivated by luxury and lifestyle to enjoy those golden years, and they're looking to downsize. Often people get offered a career opportunity in another city or another state, or their partner does, so they move to embrace that opportunity. Now, if you'll forgive my pun, there are a lot of moving parts involved in selling and moving home. When you're selling, you're interested in top dollar, but most owner-occupiers have a certain amount of repairs and maintenance that they just live with, and buyers have an expectation that's a bit higher than that. Now, beyond the time and hassle of taking care of those repairs, you might think that you might want to actually do a wow factor, like a new bathroom or a new kitchen. And that's more than just some time and hassle. There's tens of thousands of dollars of investment there. How do you fund that if you don't have access to that capital? Now, once you've sold, you're now in a process. You're now in a bit of a pressure cooker process. You have to go through the conveyancing and settlement process. There are inquiries, there's documentation, there's money that needs to move, and there are deadlines. And once you're through all that, you need to move out and move in, and you want to have the lights on, you want to be able to plug in the kettle. And if you've got children, you definitely need the Wi-Fi enabled on the day that you move in. So I'm absolutely delighted today. Not only do we have an all-women panel, but we have women who represent a depth and breadth of PropTech, showcasing solutions that help you to sell, settle, and move home. So let's meet the panel. My first guest today is Portia Miller, who is the marketing lead at SaleFunder. G'day, Portia. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. I'm very well, thank you. Besides, obviously, the terrible weather in Sydney this week. We're supposed to still be in summer, but it's not putting it on for us, is it?
That's right. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. And so you're joining us from Sydney today?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. My second guest today is Kylie Dillon, who is the co-founder of Realtime Conveyancer. Hi, Kylie. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
And where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from sunny Perth, Western Australia.
Yes, we're a bit jealous of the sun today. Like, Sydney is very grey with torrential rain coming down. And
we have, I think it's sunny and 37 or something here today, so beautiful.
And my third guest is Belinda Seers, who is the Head of Business Development at Direct Connect Australia. G'day, Belinda. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hey, Jen. Delighted to be here. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, also in Sydney. I'm working from an unfamiliar space. This is my in-laws' house in Middle Cove in Sydney. Because like most people, I got bored of my house over the last couple of years and we've got some renovations going on there at the moment. So Yes, also been challenging with the storms and things, and I think the jacket might come off soon given the humidity as well.
And actually one of the benefits of the storm today is my neighbours are doing a knockdown rebuild. So the bricklayers who turned up this morning have now left. So I have some peace and quiet to do the webinar.
I thought, oh no, that's not going to be great. That won't fly with the podcast, but they've disappeared home for the day.
Oh, it's worked out. Portia, let's come to you first and talk about SaleFunder. We always like to ask people to start off by explaining in a nutshell what their Proptech does, or another way of saying that is, can you please give us your elevator pitch?
Yeah, of course. So SaleFunder, we provide real estate agents a payment gateway to help vendors get their properties to market. So we offer secure cash payment requests. We offer a PCI compliant credit card facility and also a pay later option, which is our biggest product that we run. So we pay vendors loans to fund all sorts of things that come with selling and styling and preparing a home for sale. And some of those funds we can pay in up to as soon as 48 hours. And like a lot of our competitors, we don't make any agency liable for our loans. It's all vendor loans. So
what are some of the problems or challenges people might experience if a solution like SaleFunder wasn't available?
As you mentioned before, Jennifer, there's a lot that goes into selling a home, and it's usually around a big life event. And a lot of the time we don't think about what is actually involved cost-wise. So you've got your typical things, moving costs and actually getting out of the property and buying the new one, but no one thinks about, is the property ready for sale? Do we have to pay for marketing? What about the conveyancer? What about everything else that goes on top? And there's situations where possibly it's a deceased estate, or maybe you're a couple that's separating. There's conversations about money that people don't want to have around that time as well. So we make it easier for these people and all vendors to get to market that way.
What you just said there about deceased estates and couples separating, I hadn't actually thought about that before, but that makes a lot of sense, and it to help smooth over those difficult times of life. It's fantastic that solutions like
and like I said, our main product is our pay later. It's an uncomfortable conversation about money to have, even within a real estate agent that you might not know that well, and most people are not very forthcoming with money issues or the fact they don't want to pay for things up front. So more than 50% of our loans are pay at settlement, and it just takes away that need to have that conversation about how people will pay, or possibly losing a listing for an agent because a vendor's not comfortable with saying, I don't want to pay for this up front.
So can I ask you, how do people apply for a SaleFunder loan, and what's your process to screen them and approve that credit?
Yeah, so we have a two-prong approach for our loans. So our first one is through their real estate agent. So we have an online portal where they can apply for their vendor, obviously with the vendor's sign off and with their correct ID checks. And then we also have a direct model where vendors can come to us directly and get the funds that way. Obviously, we have our own credit criteria that we check through internally. So everything is screened out, the agencies are checked, we make sure funds are going into the correct place, all our payment gateways are secure. Yeah.
And so how are you using technology in that process?
Yeah, so we process thousands of loans a month, and without technology, it just wouldn't be efficient or possible. So we have a custom CMS that we use that does everything from sending out automatic emails to generating loan documents, to generating PDFs, to contacting people. So without technology, it wouldn't be possible. We also run a lot of APIs with all our partners, other providers in the market, as well as domain and REA.
Fantastic. So is your go-to-market approach, would it be more through real estate agents? Can you give us a bit of an understanding of what's the split between applicants who come via a real estate agent versus applicants who come direct? And what are your strategies for boosting both of those channels?
Yeah, so we've got the B2B, so that's where we work with our agencies, and they're approached directly by our BDMs, and they would probably account for around 60 to 65% of our loans. Obviously, when you're selling, the agent is the first port of call, so they're going to be the highest number of people that are applying for our loans on behalf of their vendors. So they're approached directly by our BDMs, and we've got a specific onboarding team, because obviously every agency is different and everyone has their unique challenges. So we have a specific onboarding team that takes on every agency how they are. And then with our B2C approach, we use a lot of Google, we use newspapers, we're featured on A Current Affair with a very positive article about us. Social media, obviously, advertising plays a huge part as well.
Yeah. what kind of positive feedback are you getting, whether that's from real estate agents or from the vendors? Can you share some of the praise you've received from the market with us?
Yeah, so there's a lot of competitors out there and a lot of dinosaurs who've been around for a long time who haven't had any competition in the market for a while. Agents that have swapped over to SaleFunder from them tell us they've got a significant increase in cash flow because a lot of them were taking on those pay later loans on there, which is not really viable for an agency when you're trying to grow and pay staff costs and all those sort of things that come with running a business. We pay a lot quicker, and most importantly, we can save $30,000 to $40,000 for their admin costs in-house. And you just have to read our Google reviews with how vendors feel about our product. It's there in a time of need. It's something they didn't realize that they thought they would need. It's something they didn't know existed, and they're just happy that they had it.
So you've mentioned some of the uses. I think it might be interesting. Is there any limitation on what the 60,000 can be used for, or can you give us some more examples of what people can pay for with the $60,000 credit?
Yeah, so it really can finance a whole range of things. Our main product is people pay for their advertising. So actually getting the property live, so putting listings on Domain and flyers and billboards and banners and whatever the pack that the agency has offered up the vendor. We've seen people do landscaping, retiling houses. We've seen full scale renovations taken on with it. So we've got a current situation at the moment where a tenant has trashed a property and they need to fix it up before they can sell. And that's a huge job involving tradespeople, everyone, and the agent as well.
Again, I thank you for saying that, because that's a use case I actually wouldn't also have thought of. And again, it's fantastic to know that you can help property owners who are experiencing those difficulties. So can you ask, what's coming up in terms of SaleFunder's product roadmap? Is there anything you can share with us that you're planning to launch later in the year? Any improvements or new features?
Sure, of course. So we're working towards a more upstream and cost savings and efficiencies for agents at the moment. We work closely with all the agencies that we have, which is why we have the dedicated onboarding team, and we take on feedback and improve our product all the time, depending on what's needed and required out there in the market. And so we're hopefully not only going to be providing cash flow solutions, but also solutions to lower administration costs for our agency partners as well, further saving them time, money, and helping their vendors.
Yeah, definitely. Like time, money, and hassle is a bit of a mantra I often use when I'm explaining the benefits of a lot of emerging technology solutions. And I think sometimes it's actually just that hassle factor that really resonates with people.
Use our product just purely for convenience. So they don't have to think about the money. They don't have to put their own money into another account. They don't have to do anything but agree to our terms, and that's it. It's all sorted.
Fantastic. And now, before I come and chat with Kylie, Portia, have you got your PropTech Award entry in for SaleFunder?
Drafts. I have been working on it. As mentioned before, I'm not insane, just rocking. I do have a newborn at the moment, so she's just sitting on my lap, but I'm doing it in between her demands.
Perfect. Wonderful. We look forward to that. So in case people aren't aware, the PropTech Awards for 2022 entries are currently open and will close on the 18th of March. And more information about that is on the proptechassociation.com.au website. Thank you very much, Portia. Kylie, let's come and chat about that middle bit I said. I described it as a pressure cooker. And I think, Kylie, my personal opinion is that what you do as a conveyancer is hugely underrated in terms of the risk that you carry. The conveyancing piece is hugely underrated in the whole property selling, buying and moving journey. So can you please tell us what is, in a nutshell, what is Realtime Conveyancer? Give us your elevator pitch.
Realtime Conveyancer automates and streamlines the conveyancing process from contract to keys. We do that through digital innovation. We're aiming to bring all parties into the transaction to be able to provide complete transparency by way of our core platform and our mobile application.
Wonderful. Can you give us a bit more of the backstory? What are some of the challenges and hassles that conveyancers, but not just the conveyancers, but also the stakeholders in this process, of which there are multiple, right? There's a buyer,
Absolutely.
There's a seller, there's mortgage provider, there's solicitors or conveyancers for the buyer, solicitors or conveyancers for the seller, there's real estate agents. Tell us a bit more of the backstory of the problem that you're solving for with Realtime Conveyancer.
Yeah, so we come to understand that the way people buy, sell, finance and settle property is changing. We also know that up to or between 34 to 64% of consumers have a less than ideal experience when buying and settling a home, and the time that it takes to settle a property. Given the fact that the consumers, they have so much transparency and visibility in every other aspect of their life, there's nothing that they can't track. Now, until recently, so until the introduction of PEXA, there had been very little change in the conveyancing process for 150 years. Now, given it is it is somebody's biggest purchase of their lifetime, 150 years of doing something the same way is a really long time to have no change. The conveyancing process has largely been known as a black hole. The consumer has no visibility, the real estate agent and the finance broker have no visibility. And the only way they know what's going on is when the conveyancer picks up the phone or sends them an email to give them an update. And in today's busy world, there's a lot of people that just can't take phone calls. They're either on the run, they're in a meeting, they're at work. Like Portia could be in the middle of a brand new baby and just do not have the time to spend with a conveyancer asking all these questions about where her transaction is at. The other thing is we find also too, quite often when we get the client on the phone, because they're in the middle of doing so much other stuff, there's only a really small component that they actually hear and that they actually take on board. So they hang up and they're really not sure. Yeah, the fact that the consumer is starting to demand that visibility and transparency because they have it in every other aspect of their life is what Realtime is aiming for. We're aiming to make sure that that experience for the consumer is an amazing experience, because it absolutely should be.
Agree with that. So tell us a little bit more about how you're using technology at Realtime Conveyancer.
Okay, so we offer a cloud-based solution which is driven by APIs. It is using modern reactive web application development technologies like React for the front-end user phase and Node to build a strong back-end and support our API integration strategy, and which is largely all about making sure that we connect all parties in that ecosystem to give them that visibility and transparency over the process.
Yeah, I think you're right that it's one of those things that it sounds like it should be a simple problem to solve to give all parties visibility, but I can imagine it really wasn't a simple problem to solve.
Absolutely not. When you think about the fact that you can have a dozen different types of sellers with a dozen different types of buyers with a dozen different types of properties who may or may not be an investor or an owner-occupier or a first home buyer or a pensioner who may or may not have paid their rates and taxes. So there are so many variables in play. And the fact that most people buy or sell, what do they say? I think it used to be every 10 to 12 years. Now they're saying it's every 7 to 10. But they forget what the experience is and they forget what they need to be doing. And the fact is, most consumers don't actually know what a conveyancer is or why they need one. They know that they need one because the real estate agent or finance broker tells them they do, but they don't actually know what it is that we do. So by giving them access to a platform that allows them to not just track their milestones or track their settlement, but actually really brings them into the process by way of being able to receive their documents, sign their documents, return their documents, chat to their conveyancer. We are also hoping that that level of education brings about a whole new level of professionalism as well.
I can't believe that in 2022, anyone really wants to be printing out documents and doing a wet ink signature or drawing a check.
Absolutely. And the fact that the real estate agents have so much amazing technology that's been delivered to them over the years, the consumer is starting to receive, they're signing contracts digitally, they're viewing properties digitally, they're interacting with their real estate agent digitally, and then they hit the conveyancing process and it's such a paper-based process that they're actually quite frustrated. Then by the time they come back to us, they're like, what's with all this paperwork and why are we still having to sometimes deal in checks? Because they've come to expect that it should be happening in a digital environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kylie, what kinds of positive feedback are you getting from, other conveyancers? And also if you've got some feedback you can share from other stakeholders in the process, lenders or real estate agents and the buyers and sellers themselves?
Yeah, the feedback we've had, Jen, has been absolutely brilliant. Feedback from, oh my God, this is absolutely what the market needs. Why hasn't somebody done this before? We're really excited to see you bring this to market. How much longer till we can use it? But I think looking back, the most rewarding feedback that we have received is that conveyancers and industry stakeholders really appreciate the amount of passion and care and thought leadership that's actually gone into building the platform, because this is something that the one thing you cannot mess with is people's lives, and the biggest asset of their life deserves a ton of respect. This is not, introducing technology for technology's sake doesn't play in, there's no space for that in this particular process. So that's been probably the most rewarding feedback that we've had, is that they really do appreciate the effort and the care that's gone into it. From our logo all the way through to our values and the actual platform itself, we ask ourselves a question in everything that we build: is this going to provide a great or an amazing experience for the conveyancer and the consumer, yes or no? And if it's a no, then we don't build it. That human element is just so important, and we do keep coming back to that all the time.
I think one of the extra special sauce features, if I could put it that way, of real-time conveyancer is, and sometimes we do see this in PropTech ventures, is sometimes people have built a solution to solve their own problem for where they were already in the property industry. So for example, last month on the panel, we had Mikhail Roger from PropHero, who is a very enthusiastic and experienced property investor. And he was astounded that there wasn't an app that would let him get all the information he needed quickly and efficiently to assess whether something was a good investment property. So he built it.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. As a conveyancer, the platform that I was using, and then the other platforms that were available to me, I was looking, thinking that's just not quite hitting the mark for me. It's not, I guess my vision was so great. And I was really concerned that the platform that I was using was not going to get my business to 2025, 2030, which just led me to flying to the US to spend some time over there doing some research, and really just loved and fell in love with the way that they really care about the consumer, but we're also really happy to play around and have a bit of to change things up. The whole disruptor. It's not about, you don't have to disrupt an industry for the sake of disrupting an industry, but if you really want to make sure that your business is going to remain relevant and go forward, I'm exactly where PropHero was in that regard.
So tell us a little bit more about what's coming up next for Real-Time Conveyance. So what are your plans for the rest of 2022?
Yeah, we have been beta testing the platform for several months now. And we've been incredibly blessed to have some really great conveyancing firms reach out to us and ask if there was the opportunity to be part of a pilot or to have a play as a beta tester. They themselves totally acknowledge the fact that what we needed was missing, and they wanted to be able to say, look, if you're open to it, can we please let us play, let us provide feedback, let us help us grow your platform, which I think speaks volumes, right? When conveyancing is a small industry, it's a cottage industry, and our competitors are often our friends at the same time. So to be able to have your competitors and your colleagues jump on board and want to help you grow your platform has just been so incredibly great. But we've settled over 700 properties through the platform now during the testing phase. So we're super excited to be approaching go live.
Fantastic. And very important question, have you got your PropTech award entry in for 2020?
Portia, it's in draft. You know what
Fantastic.
It's like, Jen, there's 100 balls in the air right now, and you jump onto it when you've got time. But yeah, absolutely.
It'll happen. Awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Kylie.
You're very
Belinda,
welcome.
let's come and talk about the moving part of selling, settling and moving. So I've sold my old home. I've bought my new home. I've now got a big logistics and project management task ahead of me. Can you tell us what, in a nutshell, is Direct Connect Australia? Give us your elevator pitch.
Yeah, sure can, Jen. So look, our mantra at Direct Connect is we make moving easy. We're a utility connection company. We've got a team of moving experts and consultants, provide a concierge service to those busy, stressed movers to connect the gas and electricity, as well as things like internet, telco, Foxtel, and so forth. We've been doing this for 20 years. We know how to do it extremely well. We know how to get the power on. And being owned by an energy company, even more, we've got the smarts and the connections behind the scenes, so it's very seamless. But over the past few years, what we've had to do is become more of a blended service. There was that traditional human call centre element, and we've had to digitise that somewhat to complement without taking away the fact that somebody still does want a voice at the end of the phone to alleviate their concerns and give them back that time in the day. Yeah, it's become PropTech with a traditional service to effectively be able to scale that and provide a better customer experience over the past few years.
Yeah, there's something about that human element that just goes to trust. Even though there's the convenience of the digital, nothing compensates for being able to actually get through to a human when you need to. So can you tell us a little bit more, if I wasn't going to use a service like Direct Connect Australia, what kind of challenges would I be facing to try and do this myself?
Yeah, you try and call up your existing services. So there's several phone calls there, lots of on hold. You might be sent around the place. You might not have your customer numbers. It can be a bit of a challenge. So for us, it's everything in, I think it's about 14 or 16 minutes. So saving people about an hour of their time. And as we've talked about today, moving is it's either a really happy life event or it could be a sad life event, but it's always got that emotional kind of angle to it. And so for us to help people to manage that big transition in their life, or families, children, relocating partners for careers, I've seen that in my my previous roles. So I used to work in global mobility, managing contracts with PwC and big banks and things, and seeing families have to shift from Sydney to Azerbaijan or London or New York. And it's a huge transition. And I think, oh my gosh, if this service had been available for them in all of those places, it would have been one less thing to worry about. And I've seen the raft of what people have to stress about when they're moving, whether it's down the road, interstate, or across the world. You still get that sort of emotional, human sort of stress and the bell curve of acceptance and denial, and then eventually you're happy with it most of the time. So look, as I said, we take about an hour we give people back about an hour into their life, which I think we all appreciate. We'd love an hour back. Portia, you've got a baby at home, multitasking on your lap. It's just brilliant. We all have busier lives than ever, and today's probably the slowest day that we'll ever live. So we've just got to continue to nail this and make it better. But also, that's kind of the mover perspective. For real estate owners who we work with, we pay a referral fee for those customers that come through, whether it's PropTech or a traditional entry method. And it used to be beer money. Even when I started at Direct Connect 3 years ago, we were talking relatively small amounts. It was $5, $10, $20 here. And the impact of energy referrals today on the bottom line is something that everyone has got to be nailing, because one, it's a great service. But two, it really should be having an impact on your balance sheet. So if you're not seeing that today, I'd say to anyone listening in, get in touch. We can make sure that we can turn that situation around, because a lot has evolved in the last couple of years.
I think it's probably a natural observation here that consumers do value convenience. So Belinda, are you connected in, for example, or maybe we can make some connections right here. Are you connected into Realtime, Conveyancer and SaleFunder for those kinds of referrals and joined up service?
Do you know what? We're not, but I've been listening intently today going, wow, I've got to look into this. And to be honest, our development and our partner pipeline is through the roof. I was told again yesterday, call your jets. We can only choose so many. And it's a wonderful problem to have, because there are so many awesome PropTechs out there. And whether it's energy, PropTech, real estate, there's so many brands that are knocking on our door, and we're meeting in networking events because we're back out in the market again. And even some people that I met at the PropTech Association Awards last June, Jen, they're now partners. So there are so many opportunities, and Portia and Kylie, at the right time, I'd definitely like to have the conversation and see if there's anything we can do there.
I'm glad we're all thinking the same thing on that one there. My first thought when I saw who was on the panel.
So Belinda, would it be true to say that Direct Connect Australia, whilst there's a high human touch at the consumer facing piece, there's lots of technology in the back end? Is that correct? And can you tell us a bit more about how you are using technology at Direct Connect Australia?
Yeah, very much. So as I've said, that human voice at the end of the phone needs to remain. That's constant, and customer feedback continues to say that they want that. We're not a comparison site. We're not going to do what someone can click on a web link and do themselves. We're there to alleviate some pressure. But what we've had to do is to replace the traditional entry methods, phone, email, even fax. We still get fax today. But over the last 3 years, we've gone from having just the DC referral and the rest button to I think we're up to about another 16 or 17 entry methods across home and property trust accounting platforms, application forms. So all of the big ones, Property Me, Property Tree, REI forms, you name it. And we haven't gone into them gently either. We are a very compliant, a very values-driven organisation that approaches each methodically, and we have to prioritise the customer voice over others. It's all a secure API based on a Java platform. We do things methodically. We run UpGuard scores to minimise cybersecurity risk, and we hold all of ourselves, our brands and our partners to account on that. So what we do is we run that periodically and say to those partners, hey, did you know you're a little bit exposed to your score's weak? And they go, actually, brilliant, thank you. We did some work. We didn't realise we're exposed. Because the last thing that we want for anyone in the industry, but particularly those in our ecosystem, is for a small change or a small advancement in PropTech to leave one of us open. And I just think of the worst case scenario of all of the data that we have out there in real estate, that privacy information, the PII, keeping that secure is absolutely paramount in everything that we do.
Yep, totally. Good to hear. Okay, so Belinda, can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up from Direct Connect Australia for the rest of the year? Are there any major product roadmap, deadlines, any new features and benefits we can expect to see you launch?
I sure can. Yeah, there's plenty. There's too many to list at the moment, which is awesome, actually. Probably the most exciting is that we've just recently launched a first in market partnership with Uber. We did a small pilot on that, and we're about to open up that trial to all of our entry methods. And one of the most reputable, well-recognised brands on the planet, working with Little Direct Connect in Australia. How good's that? What we're doing is it's actually a mover reward. And the mover, each individual can choose what they do with it. We are all about choice, and that's why we're in all of the entry methods. We don't say, if you're with Direct Connect, you need to use this PropTech and here's the only reward. Instead, we're saying, here's 20 different ways you can send us referrals. And oh, by the way, here's an Uber voucher for your movers, and they can create their own adventure. So Jen, if you were the mover, you could use that as an Uber ride to get from rental property one to swing by your agent to grab your keys and get into your other one. You could do even a parcel delivery. There's an Uber Connect parcel delivery now, because I'm surprised that none of our doorbells have rang every single meeting. Sorry, I've just got a delivery. See, we can use it at that. Or the wonderful thing is local cafe, keep them in business, coffees, order Thai on the first night, get a really good quality pizza when you move in and you can't be bothered to eat. And what I super love about it was COVID taught us that we want to keep our local barista in business. They were probably the constant when we didn't see our family and our friends. We still saw that person. Then we saw this part of our face. It's hyper local and hyper personal. So that's the most exciting thing. Without going on, just a couple of other digitisation journeys that we're on. We're working with the REI in New South Wales and Dynamic Methods, the tech behind REI forms, to continue to digitise the digital signing journey and the experience and where referrals come through. Again, trying to get to the mover to save property managers some time, and we all know that they need one less administrative step in their life. So really excited about that. And probably the other one to mention is we didn't previously go down the white label tangent at Direct Connect. Some of our competitors decided to. We've opted out of that until now, but 10 years of partnership with Rain & Horn, and they said, represent our brand, go on, we trust you. We know that Rain & Horn Connect has legs, so we have white labelled that, and we'll continue to roll out white label services. So I think that's a really exciting time as well. And that just went live on our socials last week. So between that and REA.com Ignite, and now I've got to find time to speak to Realtime Conveyancer and SaleFunder and a plethora of others. It's, as I said, a really good problem to have.
Wonderful. And have you got your PropTech Award entry in?
I have it in draft, and yes, we are submitting. One of my favourite moments in 2021 was putting on a dress and bra and shoes and all those things to wear and heading into the city. And I remember saying to my wife, I won't be late, but that room was electric. I absolutely loved it. And yes, I did stumble in at 3 a.m. and probably had only had about 2 or 3 wines. I wasn't, it's not like I stumbled in because I'd had too many. it was just awesome. So we'll be there again. And Portia, you mentioned an 11-week-old. My wife is due with our second, a baby girl, in 3 weeks. So we do have to methodically plan the calendar, and that date is earmarked on there with a big red stamp. So I'll be there this year, and DC will hopefully be picking up a gong or a nomination like we did last year.
Fantastic. We look forward to that. Absolutely. So if you would like to ask a question of Portia, Kylie or Belinda, please use the Q&A function in the Zoom webinar features. And if there's anything else you'd like to share, you can also use the chat. Portia, if I can just come back to you, is there anything else while we're just waiting to see if there's any questions that do come through from the live viewers? Was there anything else we didn't touch on that you'd like people to know about SaleFunder?
Oh, okay. I'm trying to remember what I touched on before. It's just a very simple, easy to use product. That's the main feedback that we get. We love making the vendors happy, and it's come from a very vendor-centric approach in terms of how we run things and how our loans are processed and how everything's done. So I think people don't realize that it's available for them to use and what they can use it on. I know you can probably see my little sign. So everything from painting, renovations, landscaping, and also at the same time, for our agency partners, we make it easier for you to run your business in terms of cash flow, as well as reducing admin costs for you. So it's a very good two-prong approach for our company, and hopefully we'll get some inquiries after this and people can,
Okay, so
help more people.
What is the best way for people to connect with you personally and also to find out more about SaleFunder?
Yeah, so I'm obviously on LinkedIn. My contact details are pretty much all over there, as well as we've got the website. Our founder often picks up the phone when you call the 1300 number. So he's a good one to chat to if you want to know everything about the company. And yeah, so it's just the website is really the best way to contact us.
Thank you, Portia. Kylie, was there, oh, hang on, I see a question has come in. Let me just quickly check on the Q&A. It seems to, oh, it's a question for you, Kylie. So that's great. Let's come. So the question for you, Kylie, is your platform Australia-wide for settlement?
No, it's not. It's been built for WA. The plan is to actually head into South Australia. But before we do that, I'm touching on everything that I talked about earlier on, where we are playing the biggest asset of somebody's life here. And there's no way that I'd be looking to take a platform beyond WA until I want it to prove itself. It would be remiss of us to just build some technology and just whack it out to the country and go, here you go, guys, have a play with this. Like I said, given we're still in that, beta testing phase, I'm all about getting it right first. But yeah, absolutely. The plan
so you're live
is to
in
head
WA,
into SA.
and your next target market is SA. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And Kylie, if people want to connect with you personally and also to find out more about Realtime Conveyancer, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn and obviously the website, both have all the details on there. There's a lot of information on the website talking about Realtime Conveyancer and how we are aiming to streamline that. So we talk about contract to keys. That obviously starts with integrations with the real estate CRMs, so that the flow from the real estate CRM lands in the dashboard of the Realtime Conveyancer, and then obviously the integration with PEXA. So the client being conveyancers and their clients being sellers and buyers are never having to jump in and out of a ton of unintegrated systems and tools.
Thank you. And Belinda, finally to you, what's the best way for people to connect with you personally and also to find out more about Direct Connect Australia?
Yeah, I'm going to sound very Gen Y here, Jen. There's a pun for you again. Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the socials. And please do reach out. Even if you want to collaborate, share, give feedback, if there's an opportunity. I respond to everything quickly. I love talking to people and hearing their journeys and seeing how we can help each other. So yeah, encourage you to reach out, and yeah, let's do some good things and move the industry forward together.
Wonderful. Okay, I think that's probably bringing us up to about time. So thank you so much for sharing your stories and journeys and telling us about your PropTech solutions for selling, settling and moving. Thank you very much to Portia Miller from SaleFunder.
Sorry, I just got to unmute. Thank you so much for having me, Jen. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very much to Kylie Dillon from Realtime Conveyancer.
Jen, really appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you to Belinda Seers from Direct Connect Australia.
Pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. The recording of this will be available. It will go up on the Stone and Chalk YouTube. And if you are not already following us on LinkedIn, if you follow Proptech Association Australia, that is the best way to stay up to date with our activities and our news. If you are interested in becoming a member, there is lots of information on the website about becoming a member, and entry into our awards is free for members, and entries will close on the 18th of March. So thank you very much for your company. And like I said, look out on the LinkedIn for information about March's Proptech panel. Our normal cycle is that it's the 4th Tuesday of the month, and we'll be sharing all the details with people on the LinkedIn and also on the EDMs. Thank you very much, and see you next